Wake up with a smile, and then in a while, come to lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch, lunch with the ladies. Lunch, lunch with the ladies.
Welcome to The Libby Show. On this episode, the ladies will answer the question, what is a podcast? And the ladies are joined by special guests, Maureen Vanzant and Joanna Bonaro. So let's do lunch with the ladies.
Welcome. Do you know what a podcast is? Have you ever listened to one? Well, if you're not familiar with them, you'll learn some new things on today's episode. I know I learned a lot preparing for this show, and OMG, I have found another way to fill my time. There are so many podcasts out there, and they're right on my phone. I'm also really excited today because we're going to be talking to two very accomplished ladies who have their own podcasts. The incredible, the versatile Maureen Vanzant and the lovely and talented Joanna Bonaro. We'll find out about what they're talking about and so much more. But first, today's show is about podcasts. I didn't know much about podcasts, as I said, so we're going to learn a bit. Little history. The radio was invented in 1896 by Marconi. Let's say about 100 years ago, and then some, people were huddled around large console radios, listening in their living rooms to stories and news about their fellow human beings. When I grew up, I used a transistor radio. And now, and this is what I feel is the ironic part, even with all the technology that we have and all the gazillion ways there are to entertain ourselves, we're going back to the same thing. We're pretty much listening to the radio. The thing is, it's gotten a lot easier. We can do it hands-free. We can choose whatever we want. We can listen anywhere. And there's just an incredible amount of information out there to solve any curious mind. So, before we start on our little lesson on podcasts, I want to ask the ladies, do you listen to podcasts? Beth, how about you?
I do. Not too many, but I'm listening to one called The Happiness Lab. It's an extension of an online course I took last year. And I'll usually listen to it when I'm out walking.
You're doing double duty, helping your mind and your body. What about you, Messalina?
I'm not a big podcast listener person, if I'm honest. My husband listens to loads because he's a long commute, but I have had to learn a lot actually for today. So I'm definitely going to try and get into listening to more because I've been like, wow, there's loads of interesting stuff to listen to. So I'm excited to tune in more.
There is. What about you, Amanda?
Yes, actually, I listen to a few different podcasts, and it's mostly when I am driving on a long distance road trip. And lately I've had to go see my parents a few times, which is a 4-hour drive. So that's when I turn it on. And there are a few that I listen to. One is called Paper Ghosts, and it's like a true crime podcast, which I totally get into because it's, you know, the mystery of it, and they're still searching for some people. And then there's another one called Smartless, and Jason Bateman is one of the hosts, Will Arnett, and so they're just hilarious. And actually, the theme of the podcast is every week they bring on a surprise. One of the guys brings on a surprise guest, and the other guys don't know who it is, and it's like a famous celebrity. And so at the very last minute, they introduce them and they're like, and it's Tiffany Haddish. And they're like, oh my gosh. And so they just off the cuff ask her questions and interview her. And so it's pretty fun, but yeah.
Those celebrity podcasts are all the rage. And it's kind of like The Masked Singer, but they don't have to be masked because there's nothing visual.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you, ladies. So I'm going to do a little class right now. I'm going to give you the 411 on podcasts. Okay. Here's the definition. Technically, a podcast is a digital audio file put on the internet for downloading to a computer or mobile device. It's typically available as a series, and new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. A podcast series usually features one or more hosts talking about a particular topic, or it can be a scripted series with plots. There's only sound, there's no visuals. I also Googled what the top 10 podcasts were, and I was a little surprised to find out. Of the top 10 podcasts that I Googled just a couple of days ago, most of them came out of news organizations that we've already heard of. Then there were some opinion shows, and there were some continuing series. And definitely true crime was right in there. So ladies, do you have any questions about podcasts?
Susie, I do. Usually I go to a link. If I don't have a link, I'm not really sure where I go. Can I find it on my phone? Where can I find it? On my phone, on my computer? Do you have any information on that?
Yes, I do, Beth. On your phone, you go to the App Store and you download a podcast app. On an iPhone, you'll probably see Apple Podcasts. On an Android, you can use Google Play and go in there and get Google Podcasts and others. But most podcasts are available on a lot of different phones, except the Apple. You may not be able to get that on an Android, not sure. But you can get most podcast apps on most phones. On a computer, you just type in the name of the podcast app, and that's how you get it.
All right, that sounds like I could do that.
Okay.
And I was wondering, is Apple the same as iTunes? Is there a difference between the two?
iTunes podcasts are available through Apple Podcasts.
What are some popular podcast apps that people can use?
Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. That's what I found are the top ones. Definitely with Spotify being up there, but I know that there's others as well.
Do you have to pay money for podcasts, or are they usually free?
The apps are free. Most podcasts are free. And I caveat that by saying most podcasts are free because I did read that there are some podcasters or podcast networks that may start charging for premium content.
Okay. And so if most of them are free, how do they usually make money?
I believe it's sponsorships and advertisers.
Okay. That makes sense.
Can I listen to it without having the internet, because I'm saying I'm walking a lot? Do I need to be connected to my neighbor's internet while I'm walking?
As long as you download it, you have to download it first, then you can listen to it anytime without the internet.
Okay, so even the ones that I'm not linked to. All right, that's good to know as well.
And Suzanne, I've noticed, like when I was poking around, that I kept seeing things saying subscribe. So what does subscribing to a podcast mean?
Messalina, I don't exactly know. I think we're going to ask our two podcast hosts today that question.
Okay, cool.
So thank you, ladies, for the question. And to our viewers, I hope that helps. It's on your phone. That's the easiest way to say it. It's on your phone. Download the app, press the search button. That's the easiest thing to do once you get into the app. So speaking of incredible podcasts, now's the time to find out from our guests what it's like to be on the other end of a podcast. I'd like to introduce Maureen Van Zandt first. Maureen Van Zandt has worked on and off Broadway as an actor, dancer, choreographer, director, and producer. She has danced with several major ballet companies and has appeared in a number of films and videos. She played mob wife Gabriella Dante on HBO's The Sopranos for 6 seasons and had a recurring role on the Netflix hit Lilyhammer. She's currently co-director of the Renegade Theater Company and teaches acting in New York City.
And I would love to introduce Joanna Bonaro. Joanna is an accomplished actor, writer, and producer in TV, film, and theater. She won the prestigious Bronze Remmy Award in the lead role for the comedy TV pilot Good and Screwed at the highly regarded 51st World Fest Houston International Film Festival. Her guest star roles include Law and Order SVU, The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, and among others. And she's done off-Broadway work, including 59 East 59th Street. She's a proud member of the Renegade.
Wonderful to have you ladies with us today. Ladies, can you hear us?
Yes, we're here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for being here.
It's great to have you. Okay, our first topic. Okay, first, you're here today because of a new podcast that you're in called Around the Sun. Truth be told, I am a co-producer of this podcast, and I jumped at the chance to have you on this show. Brad Forenza is the creator, brilliant, may I add, brilliant creator and writer of this series. It's a scripted series about the human connection, each one self-contained. It features well-known actors from stage and screen, and I can speak for Brad as well to know that we're both thrilled that you are both in one of the series, one of the episodes. It can be found on the Broadway Podcast Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's start, ladies. Tell me about how you knew Brad. Tell me about your episode and what it was like doing this, because this was done during the pandemic. Maureen?
Well, I know Brad for quite a while because Vinny Pastore, actor from Sopranos, also a dear friend, and he's the co-director of Renegade Theater. He had an acting class at HB Studios, which he was doing in person, asked me to come on to teach with him. And Brad was one of our students. And he was so talented and just the loveliest guy. And he's very creative, as you said. He's always got a project going. I did a reading of a play that he did. And he asked me to do this, so I'm thrilled because I love working with him. He's a fantastic guy, all around, talented.
Joanna, can you tell us something about what your episode is about?
Our episode is about two women who appear to be new friends and are trying to make connections with one another. And in the midst of one person trying to thank another, with the help of some very exotic bird in the middle of this, who is Maureen's a bird, by the way.
And I'm terrified of birds, by the way.
Yeah, we discover, she does a great bird imitation too, by the way, I have to tell you. We discover that perhaps we are not, we are more complicated and not as nice individuals as perhaps we originally thought. You know, when you're trying to start relationships and you do things for one another, and then all of a sudden the favor that you think you did was a small favor becomes a very large payback. That's but in a comical way. I don't want to give it away, so I'm afraid to say anything. It was a lot of fun to do, and what was interesting is it's at a baseball game, so we got to kind of be very out there, you know, with our characters, and it's a character I've never had to really I've never played anything around sports, so that was new and exciting for me. Yeah.
Well, I you know, we all listened to it, and it is around sports, but it's kind of background. And I have to say, my husband is the Mets announcer in the episode. Brad didn't know it, but he's a huge Mets fan, so it was kind of fun for him to do that. I mean, the episode takes place at a baseball game, but that bird is really the topic of conversation. And I find with many of many of the episodes in Brad's series that it's never the way you think it's going to end up. There's always some kind of twist, which happened in your episode, without giving it away.
Yeah, Joanna did a great job of describing it without giving it away. I would never have been able to do that.
I was trying to be so circumspect without, you know.
And I find that when listening to a podcast, now that I'm like not an expert, but not a beginner anymore, the inflections of both of your voices, it was clear. And I did read where your brain is functioning differently when you're listening versus listening and watching. And I just found that your voices were rich, and the emotion and what you were saying was just so much more clear and vivid to me than if I was watching you. You did a great job.
It was tough. Luckily, we did it on Zoom and we could see each other. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Maureen and I have worked together, and I simply adore Maureen on so many different levels that I won't even say because I don't want to embarrass her.
Right
but
back at
I love working with her, and I think we have an artistic way of approaching roles and characters and just the script, which is beneficial. So we kind of have our own subtle language with tacit understandings, which gives you a foundation to strongly build upon and then improvise and use your imagination. And it just makes it so much more fulfilling and fun. So as soon as Brad said, do you want to work with Maureen? And I mean, I'm in Renegade company, so of course I've worked with Maureen and Vinny before. I just jumped at the chance. I knew it was going to be a fun thing to do.
And same for me. As soon as he said Joanna was doing, I was like, whatever it is, I don't care what I have to do in this scene. I want to work with Joanna. And we have definitely worked in the same company. But the last thing we did a Zoom production of A Streetcar Named Desire.
Wow.
And we had a lovely little scene in that. And it was just so beautiful to work with Joanna, because I think she's so talented and generous as an actor, and so easy to work with.
And I do find, just being in the New York City area, there are circles. People travel in circles, actors. I call it the circle of trust. It's people that you like to deal with and that you work with repeatedly, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to take risks, but you can take those risks only if you feel safe in the environment and the person that you're working with. It's like in dancing. If you think your partner's going to drop you, you're not going to be wanting to get too adventurous. With Joanna, I knew that I could just kind of go with it, and she would take it wherever we need to go.
Yeah, I think there's a level of trust when you know you're working with a generous actor. It opens up, it takes away any inhibitions, so it allows you to experiment. Whether that's the final product or not isn't the point. The point of the rehearsal is to make the discoveries. So if you're working with someone who you trust and who you have just that ability to give and take, but not just take, but give, it enhances not only an individual's performance, it enhances everyone's performance and the entire production's performance. And I think at one point, Messalina was going to have a question asking me about that. And I would say to you, that's very important. You may not find it everywhere, so that when you do encounter people who are like that, those are the people you should include in your tribe, because that can be extremely fulfilling.
Yes, thank you. So aside from acting, and podcasting is also acting also, both of you have your own podcasts. Maureen, can you tell us about Podcast Generation Gap?
Well, this happened. I am very uncomfortable performing as myself. So a friend of mine who actually had interviewed me for a different podcast, Josh Accardo, who's a great comedian and actor, we just really hit it off when he interviewed me, and he said we should do a show together. And I thought, what could it possibly be? And he's younger than I am, and we thought, well, generation gap. And it kind of turned out that we both really meet in the middle about everything, but it's become just a pop culture thing. We get crazy stories from all over the place, and we talk about them because Josh is a comedian. He always makes it very funny. We do shows where we have guests for the entire show, and they kind of sit in on these stories, and we interview them. We talk about music. We do a segment where we give our picks for the week: books, movies, TV shows, music, things like that. So it's really just a fun hangout. It's not anything that we do a little bit of homework for it, but we don't really have to. We kind of hit it off so well that we can just go on there and have fun. And Joanna's been a guest on the show and was great. And that's what we do. We bring our friends on, we bring interesting artists, all kinds of people. And it's been a lot of fun. We're in a bit of a hiatus right now because Josh just had a baby, but we're going to get back to work soon.
I did hear that. I did listen to a few, and yeah, it's conversational, and it's the human connection, it's human stories. I think I caught an episode about all the noise near where you live.
Yes. I'm surprised it's quiet right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to shout out, just because you mentioned that Josh just had a baby, Messalina has her little baby with her. She is a very new mother also.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you, Joanna, for the advice before. That was really nice and helpful.
Joanna, and now can you tell me about Terrace Truth Talking? And I do see that it has a similar mission as our show does. And who
as well as
for?
similar alliteration,
Yeah.
TTT.
It's called Terrace Truth Talking because I have a terrace, and I always found that you invite your girlfriends over and you're all sitting around with your coffee or your wine, and that's when you're just talking heart to heart about either what's going on in your life or a problem or getting advice. And it also came out from the pilot that I wrote, which is for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, because I think that's an underdeveloped or exposed age range in the entertainment industry. So I decided it needed some filling in. And so I called it Terrace Truth Talking, trying to find fulfillment in a frenetic world. And I didn't want to use specifically, I did not want to use the word middle age, not because I have any really problems with it. I actually like my age. I'm happy with it. But I wanted to find a word that would show the complexity and the attractiveness and the sexiness and sophistication. And so I like to use the word effulgent. So how does one lead an effulgent? You know, in your effulgent years, these are special years. These are the years, these are prime years. And so I want to celebrate that. And I wanted to celebrate it with women who weren't necessarily famous, although Maureen's very famous.
No.
I wanted to be able to just talk about topics that we all of a sudden in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, all of a sudden have to pay attention to. And the people we always go to are our friends and our neighbors. Those are the people who give you the best advice. And I wanted to just be able to share that with everybody else.
Yeah, and that is also, when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is another woman that is thinking the same way as all of us on this show. We have women over a certain age. I do not like the term middle-aged either. I think it's terrible. And then we have Messalina to balance us out, just like you do with Josh, to give another perspective. We came up with a word. I love your word. I actually had to Google it because I did not know what I did not know what it meant. It's brilliant. We like to call ourselves the Libbies. It's an acronym for ladies living in their best years.
Love it.
That's because we looked up, just as you did, I'm sure, synonyms for women of a certain age, and spinster comes up.
Not pretty.
Ridiculous words. And look at all of us. I mean,
but I want to also tell you that it was terrifying to try to start my own podcast. And the first podcast I ever listened to was Maureen's podcast, Gen Gap Nation. And I saw what they did and how they spoke, and it was just very natural, and that back and forth. So that kind of inspired me to be able to do it too.
So many people that are vibrant, over 40, over 50, over 60, over 70. And, this is why I love having women like you and meeting people like you, because there's a whole new world. It's a whole new generation of women. We grew up with Women's Lib. We were like the first. I know I grew up in the 70s. We were the first with those kind of notions. I remember my mother telling me you can be president someday. I don't think mothers were telling their daughters that back in the 40s and 50s. So there's this whole new world of women like us that want to shout it from the world, that we have so much to offer and our lives aren't over, and let's just connect and make the world a better place. So, I really appreciate, Joanna, you doing what you're doing, and Maureen getting out there, both of you, and talking and just living in your best year and taking that risk.
Yes, I personally want to say thank you, to both of you. And Joanna, I'm in my early 40s and an actress, and the parts seem to come, a little more sporadically these days, and so I think that there's really a lot of unreached, potential out there for us that are, wanting to celebrate, our like you said, living our best years. So thank you for
Just
that.
so all of you know, I just found this out. I got an email. The Gina Davis Institute. On November 12th, I believe, they're having a symposium specifically about women in the entertainment industry over 50 and what that entails.
Oh, that's awesome.
You might want to look that up.
Yeah, and I am signed up for that. It is free to attend.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
So beyond podcasts, I think the ladies here have some questions for our guests. So Messalina, or would you like to start?
Joanna, you kind of answered my question before, but I also have a question for Maureen. So Maureen, I got married a few years ago, and I understand that you've been married to the very talented Stephen Van Zandt since, I think, am I right thinking it's 1982?
Yes, New Year's Eve 19, so sort of 82, 83, yeah.
Well, congratulations, that's awesome. And so
Right.
I would love to hear a bit about the wedding, because I mean, who doesn't love a wedding? And also I was hoping that maybe I could get a little like marriage advice, because I think you must know some good secrets, because it seems to be going well.
Well, the wedding itself, guys, it's hard to remember. It was quite a long time ago. We got married in a beautiful brownstone up on the Upper East Side called Harkness House, which was a ballet. This woman, Rebecca Harkness, who was a patron of the arts, she bought this building and she made it into this gorgeous ballet school, beautiful chandeliers, very old time Russian ballet. And we decided to get married there. I was a ballet dancer, and we did it on New Year's Eve. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you about. It was a very crazy time that I don't remember very well, but we had Bruce Springsteen was the best man. The E Street Band did an entire show at the wedding, which took a lot of pressure off us to not entertain people and go around to tables and talk to everyone. God, we had a lot of people playing there. We had the original band from The Godfather, the orchestra that played in that wedding scene. They kind of opened up things. We had some blues singers. We had some, Gary U.S. Bonds. We had rock singers perform. And we got married like late at night. And it was, I can't remember a lot about it. I do know that it was New Year's Eve, and some people came into the building and they stole all of our wedding gifts, which were in a room. Probably the most memorable part of the evening that I got completely upset about, but in the end, it didn't matter. It was it was a fun night, as far as everybody else tells me. When you're in the middle of it, I don't know if you felt this way, Messalina, but when you're in the middle of it, you're not looking from the outside. So I can only remember what people tell me. But it was crazy. I had a lot of bridesmaids, a lot of ushers, a bunch of crazy people. And it was documented, and I don't really have the videos anymore. I don't know why. I've been looking for them for years. But yeah, it was an interesting wedding. Oh, and I forgot the best part of it. Little Richard was the minister. How could I forget that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes, a little tidbit I forgot. Yeah, he was the minister. We knew that he was a minister, and we thought, oh, he's probably performed tons of weddings. We'll get him to do this. He gets to New York and says he's never done it before. So he just it was like being at a Little Richard concert. He just like went nuts and did his thing, and the screaming and the yelling, and it was fantastic. So that was probably the highlight of it. And Messalina, as far as the advice, we've been married, I guess, almost 40 years, and we probably spent 10 of those years together, because he's been on tour a lot of the time, and I was on tour with dance companies and doing things like that. So I the best advice I could give is that you have to have your own life and your own interests, and not be so attached that you can't do anything or think anything without the other person. And I think it makes it so much better when you do come together, because you have things to talk about and things that you haven't shared with the other person, so then you can share them. So I would say that to really, and I'm sure you do, just have your own interests.
That's great. Thank you. I think but hearing that and like thinking about it, it's a really good thing that I'm going to definitely like internalize and make sure I do. So thank you.
Sure.
Maureen, I know that you've done so many things. I mean, acting and dancing and podcasting now, and what most people probably know, but you played your husband's wife on The Sopranos, which is, I think, amazing, to be able to actually do that together. So what was that like? And did you have to audition for the part, or was it just sort of given to you? What happened there?
No, David Chase doesn't give anybody anything. You have to pay for it. What happened was that he actually had, in the first season, he had a different woman playing his wife, but she didn't really have any dialogue, and I think she had very minimal stuff to do. At the end of that season, the casting director came to me because she knew that I was acting, and she said, "Would you like to audition for the role of his wife?" And I was like, "No way." I just thought that's going to be too strange, and it would definitely go against my theory of like not being together all the time. But she kind of kept pushing, and she said, "Come on, it'd be fun." And I thought, am I crazy to not even try this? Because it's the biggest show. It had become just a really big hit at that time, and I thought, you're really stupid if you don't do it. So I did the regular audition process. I went in, and there were like 200 women in the hallway, and they all looked very Italian. And I thought, well, I'm not getting this. So I kind of went in, and I just sort of threw it away. Just didn't. I mean, I took it seriously, but I thought, I'm not getting it, so I didn't get too crazy about it. And then they did callbacks, and it was down to 4 people, and I was one of them. And we all had to go up in front of the entire creative crew of Sopranos, and perform a scene. And so then again, I thought, I'm not getting this. So I just went up there, and I had fun, and I had great fun dressing as the character, because I come from New Jersey. I come from Newark, New Jersey. So I knew exactly what to do, what to wear. And they gave me the part. So it was very, very shocking to me. And as it turned out, we barely did work together on the show. I always ended up with the ladies at lunch, or the movie night, and so it was a really good balance, and it was cool. It was very, very daunting, really, to do certain scenes with him, like when he was in a coma, the last episode, and it really was disturbing to me.
Oh, I'm sure.
But other than that, it was we had some fun scenes together. Got to have our dog in one scene, so I was thrilled about that.
That's so fun.
Yeah, so it was fun. That's been immortalized, and it was definitely a very interesting experience.
Do you have a favorite role or performance? Is there anything that kind of stands out to you?
A favorite role that I've done, you mean?
A role or performance of any kind that kind of is one of your favorites?
I mean, I'd say in ballet, I love playing the part of Giselle. It was a girl who gets her heart broken, and she dies and becomes a ghost who kind of haunts men who've broken women's hearts. So, and as far as acting, it's Joanna will know, it's Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire. It's just a role that always was so close to my heart, and I feel so lucky to have been able to do it.
Well, we're actually going to ask you a fun fact, Maureen, because I've heard, you're a big Beatles fan.
Oh God, so, yeah.
Tell us, have you ever met them? Were they at your wedding?
I have actually met all of them. I met George Harrison, who was my favorite. I was madly in love with him. And he happened to be at a recording studio one night, and my girlfriend was an assistant engineer, and she said, "You have to come over here right now." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "I'm not telling you, just come over here. Get there. There's George Harrison." Wow. Comes up to me and says, "Hi, I'm George. What's your name?" And I said, "George." and he was very sweet. He was always my favorite. Then I lived on the Upper West Side, right next to the Dakota. So got to meet John Lennon then, and I would see him in the grocery stores. He was the house husband then. and Yoko was kind of running their business. And you'd see him, with the shopping cart in the Pioneer Market and at the dry cleaners. And so I got to know him from being in the neighborhood. And Paul and Ringo become good friends with, shockingly to me, gone to dinner with them, gone to parties with them. It's just been very, very surreal for me. I still can't figure out how I'm that 12-year-old girl who was screaming over them on the Ed Sullivan Show, and then here's Paul McCartney at the dinner table. And the best part of it is that I can't say New George or John well, but Paul and Ringo are just the loveliest people, and they really fulfilled every fantasy you could have about them. As far as that, they say never meet your idols, but I think got lucky with them because they're incredible people, and still kind of have to pinch myself.
That's so good to know. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, so you're seeing these people out, and then when, as you said to Messalina, sharing conversation about what you've done, I think your conversations at your dinner table are a lot more interesting than the most people's conversations at the dinner table.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not.
So, Maureen, I know that you have several charities that you work with. You work with the Renegade Theater, and then you're also teaching acting and inspiring young people. So can you tell me some of what you're doing right now, making such a difference in the world?
Well, I do like to work with organizations that keep music alive. I work with a group called Rocket Academy, which is it's a group out of New Jersey Shore, and they teach young kids how to play rock instruments and sing rock music, and they take all these songs that I grew up with, and all of us grew up with, and these kids perform it, and they perform it beautifully. They do shows, and they really have excellent training, but the best part is that they have a real respect for the music history, and it's just really beautiful to see that. I've also worked with Little Kids Rock, which is an organization that donates musical instruments to children who are in schools who are underprivileged. Wow. So we go to school and bring guitars and keyboards and things like that, and it's so heartwarming to see the reaction of these kids. I mean, you give them a guitar, it's like you gave them $1 million. It's just really, really beautiful, and they appreciate it, and because they've been given this, they want to learn what to do with it. And maybe they're not all going to become musicians, but it gives them an attachment to the arts, and how beautiful that can be, and what it's like to be part of a group and part of an ensemble and part of a family. So those are the two that I mainly work with. And of course, my husband has a Teach Rock organization, which has created a curriculum of music history for schools. And it's in thousands of schools now. So I'm on the board of that. I can't say I can take responsibility for what he does, because I just kind of help here and there. But that's something that I'm proud to be involved with as well.
That's wonderful. My son is a musician. I used to teach piano. Music is so important. It just sparks something in a young mind, and I think it also gets parts of the brain thinking and moving certain ways. But speaking of what you're doing in the New York, New Jersey area, New York and New Jersey, and Springsteen being from New Jersey is such a hub for music. I don't think people realize, it's not just one band that's from New Jersey, New York, especially New Jersey. Asbury Park, Philadelphia, these were huge hubs for the music industry. So
yeah, I mean, the music industry really used to be very East Coast, and it kind of moved out to the West Coast, I would say probably in the maybe mid 70s, even though there was a really big scene in New York then with the New York Dolls and the Ramones and all the CBGB's bands and stuff. But the music business kind of shifted out to LA, but I still think that the really raw, real stuff, a lot of it came from here.
I agree. And tell me about the Renegade Theater.
Oh God, this is a theater company that it started with Vincent Pastore. I had a little theater company before that, and he started working with us, and then we just decided to form this group, and we just have a lot of great actors from the area, people that have worked a lot professionally, some people that we've actually taken out of our acting class, students who really progressed to a point that they could work with us. And we just do what we want. We just pick plays that we love and we work on them, and we try to do things that we can include everybody in. We do a lot of plays, of course, after once COVID started, we switched to Zoom, which was challenging at first, but we kind of got the hang of it by now after a year and a half. And we've also done some video projects. We've done, Halloween video. We've done a rock and roll Christmas Carol, which you can find on our YouTube channels. Joanna is in both.
Cool.
And just some fun stuff. We just do things that are different. It's just a great gift to be able to choose the material you want to work on. And, that, as you mentioned, after a certain time, a lot of us ladies are not getting offered a lot of parts. So when you can pick a role that you want to do and just have fun with it and have the freedom to do it and not worrying about, am I too old for this? Am I not the right type? You just kind of go for it. And that's what we like to do. We like to, and the best part of it is that we're just really a family. We're all friends. We all love each other. We hang out together. We go to shows together. And it's a really, really special part of my life.
That's wonderful. And what would be the website for that?
It's renegadetheaternyc.com.
Okay. Thank you. We'll check it out.
Absolutely.
I know, Joanna, you said before about how important it is to make, like when you make connections and vibe with people, that like to really hold on to those connections. But before you make those connections and things, like how did you start out with acting? How did you get to know people? How did you build your career? Like, can you tell us a bit about that?
I went to NYU School of the Arts, but afterwards, I didn't really have the support that I needed. And since I don't have Madonna's personality, I decided that I just wasn't going to really pursue it. So I was out of the industry for a good 15 or so years, and which in some ways I think was really good because I got a lot of life experience, and I became a stronger person because rejection in this industry is something that we are all familiar with. So when I returned to the world of acting, I believe strongly in studying. So I went to as many classes as I could, and from just basic scene study to character development to voice to Shakespeare. I went to RADA for a whole summer, Chekhov, just to ensure that my instrument was strong. And then as I got to know people, I realized and reintroduced myself into the business and the industry. One of the key things that I think is important when you're ready is to put yourself in front of the casting directors, because they're not just going to discover you. You have to go out and choose the ones that you want to develop based upon what you know about them or the shows that they're casting that you think you'd be right for, and you have to develop those relationships. And I will say I got my SAG card by being on the Sopranos and auditioning in front of, at my callback there must have been 60 people in that room, which was amazing because it was just a small role. And I got that audition because I developed a relationship with the casting directors at that point. And I didn't have an agent at that point. So that's the best advice I would give you, is choose 5 to 10 casting directors and go to their workshops and learn and keep on going. If you have one bad night, if they see you again in 3 months, then you'll have improved and they'll notice it. And that's what counts. And the beginning bookings that I got were based upon them seeing me at a session and calling me in. And then that led to my building my resume, which in turn, and my CD resume of people that I knew and who I know liked me. And then was easier to get an agent and a manager because you have to do the work. You have to do the work. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So that's the best advice I can give you.
That's amazing advice, because I feel like a lot of the time everyone's just told get an agent, and doors will open up to you. So I think talking about the casting director side of things is really interesting, and I think a much more personal way to go about it, because that human connection is so important. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Joanna, I see that you did a pilot for a show called Good and Screwed, and I actually watched the trailer for it, and it looks so funny. I mean, there's so many moments in that makes me want to, see the entire episode. But you were also, not only were you starring in it, but you were also a writer and a producer on it. So tell me what it's like. 'Cause I know that you've been in front of the camera, but what was it like to be behind the camera for this type project?
Well, I had written many things my whole life, and but the topic about being an older woman and wanting to see people like me, which means not superstars that we already know. I wanted people like me to be seen, because I think they're relatable to most women. When you see Nicole Kidman, I adore her, but I also see Nicole Kidman, no matter how magnificent she is. Mm-hmm. So I wanted people to be able to identify with someone up on the screen. So when I wrote it, that wasn't really as much of the hard part. I was petrified of being a producer. But before I returned to acting, I had a very successful career as a cosmetic executive with Estee Lauder, and I was in charge of their second largest account in the world. So I knew about hiring, I knew about budgets, I knew about advertising, I had a skill set that I just didn't think I could transfer.
Right.
And then when I realized, what does a producer do? Yes, there are things I had to learn. I realized I had a skill set and I could just transfer it. And I also got a very good line producer to help. And that I found the most terrifying, but then actually turned out not to be terrifying at all.
I think a lot of people just don't realize how much work goes on behind the camera, when they're just used to watching the stars, in front of the camera, but there's just so much, just to be able to get it out there, and the things that have to be done on the producing side. So that's really, really awesome that you were able to use. That's what I tell people sometimes when they ask about, well, I have a degree in business. How's this even going to help me in acting? And I'm like, you know what? You can use everything that you have done in your past to help you in this industry. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really great that you were able to use that past experience to help in that.
Now, Amanda, you talk about how busy it is behind the camera. And Joanna, it's really busy to also have a podcast. And I applaud you for doing that. And so in that free time that you have, what other projects are you working on?
Right now, I was just asked to be in a play with someone else that I know from the whole Sopranos, Renegade, basically family, what have you. Bobby Finaro is asked me to be in a play called Metropolitan Miracles, which is kind of a Fellini-esque play based upon what we'd like to call the sewage of life, and how does one, meaning the ugly parts of life, and how do people deal with it. So I'm starting working on that.
Well, that's a very interesting premise, and we to see more of it.
Yeah. See what happens.
And I wanted to add to something you've said previously, and I think it just follows the message of what we're all saying. You're saying your days as an executive in the cosmetics industry helped you produce a film. Well, I think that's one of the things. I mean, we all now at this age can look back and say, oh, I did that, and oh my gosh, I never knew that would be valuable, and now I understand because I did that. I understand something else better. So it's the wisdom that comes with age. And I just hate saying that all the time, but I really feel like I took chances when I was younger, but now we have that body of experience, whether it's from being in the cosmetics industry or whatever we were doing, that's going to help us do something now even better. Maureen, I think we didn't ask you. You were saying all the things that you currently do, but do you have any projects that are on the horizon that you've started?
Let's see, I did a voice thing for an animated film. I don't know if I'm supposed to even be talking about this yet, but it's a fun kind of New Jersey connection in the film. I'm working on a couple of plays. There's one called Painting X's on the Moon that we are hoping to put up live. We've been doing everything on Zoom. This is outside of Renegade, really. And then within Renegade, we're doing Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge, a Zoom. We're going to do a live performance of that. So we've just started working on that, and I'm still working on some choreography. I'm working on a little dance piece now. That's still very early stages, and that's about it. I'm also doing a weekly acting class, which we just started. This is on my own with another member of the Renegade company. Vincent has taken a bit of a break. And so we started this class, and we've kind of inherited a lot of the students that Vinny and I were teaching. And so we're going to be doing that every week on Zoom until we can do it live again. I think a lot of people still don't feel safe being indoors and in a room with a lot of people. I know I don't. So we're doing the best we can. I mean, Zoom, as much as an annoyance as it can be and a challenge, it's been really a blessing, for those of us who want, as you all know, who want to still keep doing something creative. So I thank God for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have this show around a table of all of us eating lunch, but I'm certainly not ready for it, and neither of any of the people I've spoken to. But we keep creating, and I could see with both of you, I always say the creative brain never stops. So even during a pandemic, people were still creating, and they won't stop. So we're going to look forward to all of those products that you're working on, and we'll put it on our Facebook page when it becomes available, where people can see you. So let's do some fun questions now. We're going to ask both Maureen and Joanne the same question, and in one or two, quick, no longer than a sentence. We want to find out the answers to some of these things that we've been wondering. So Beth, can you start the quick question round for Maureen and Joanne?
We're talking about New York and New Jersey. So what are your favorite beaches?
I haven't been to the beach since I was about 18, probably. I would have to say maybe Cape May. I think it is lovely. So I'm not a beach person, so God knows what it's like now, but I always remember that as being really lovely. I love the Wildwood also.
Okay. How about you, Joanna?
Well, I'm a Bronx girl, so Jones Beach, Section 6.
To be specific. And near and dear to everyone's heart, favorite restaurant. And we have so many good ones.
In New York or New Jersey or
either place.
I am going to choose Il Cantonori on 10th Street in the Village. And in New Jersey, I have to shout out my family's restaurant, which is called La Pasteria. There are two of them, one in Summit, New Jersey, and one in Red Bank, New Jersey.
I go there all the time.
I mean, that's my sister and brother-in-law, so say hi to them next time.
I sure will.
Cool,
and
that's great.
Well, I like the boathouse at Central Park just because of the view. Yeah. And the Bethesda Fountain is one of my favorite places in the whole world. So it may not be, AAA food, but
gorgeous.
I just enjoy that. So that's mine.
Well, they both sound, they're delicious. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, God, this is a tough one. I'm gonna have to say West Side Story, closely followed by All About Eve.
Well, it's All About Eve. Although I do love All About Eve.
Right?
I'm gonna be corny. What can I say? Sound of Music.
Oh.
Good one.
Then before it became, I don't know, weird to say, but I still love Gone with the Wind, because who cannot like Vivian Leigh and the rest of the cast? Everyone was brilliant. So those are it. That's it.
Oh, and on the small screen, what are you binging?
I'm weird. I don't like to binge things. I guess I'm old fashioned. I like to wait for things to come on a week later. I'm really weird. So I haven't been binging anything. I have to say I've gone back to Mad Men and I've been watching episodes of that. I absolutely love it. So I'm a child of the 60s, so I really relate to that. And I was a little kid then, but I love the whole thing about the style, the art direction, and the acting. So that's, I guess I am binging it because I'm maybe watching a couple a day.
And the set design, the decor is amazing.
Fantastic, yeah.
How about you, Joanna?
Well, I haven't been watching TV lately. I've been involved in some other things, but I really, the last thing that I really binged with just complete fixation was my Brilliant Friend. Because I think the cinematography, the dialogue, the acting, so naturalistic. It's a type of show I would kill to be in. And from the stories that I heard, since I'm a first generation Italian, of growing up then in Italy, I feel a connection to it.
Sure. Because you're both so busy, what's your best way to relax?
For me, it has to be something physical. So taking a ballet class or a bar class. I love to read, just really, really simple things. But I think physical things are a meditation to me, and dance especially. It's been really, just now getting back to ballet class that I'm doing with a mask on and all of that and being really cautious, but it's still, I didn't realize how much I missed it.
For me, it's always been reading. Just if I can get lost in a good book, I'm lost and the whole world just disappears.
I know that's when you find a book like that, you just hold on. All right, another New York, New Jersey question, because we not only have great restaurants, but just our food choices. What's your favorite regional food?
I'm going to say the soft pretzels on the street in New York.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
I have to say something about that, Maureen. I worked in the city back in the 80s, 90s, and they were hot and crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside. And the couple that I've had, when I've had them most recently, they were a little cold. They were more like supermarket pretzels than those big fat pretzels.
Well, I haven't had one since the pandemic started because I've been afraid to take things from people's hands. But I've been thinking about that. I pass them all the time, and I thought it was now the time to try it. But yeah, I love them since from when I was a kid, when I lived in New Jersey. If my parents were going into New York, I'd say, bring me some pretzels home, because you couldn't get them in Jersey then.
There's a restaurant in New Brunswick. I'm not going to give the name, but they serve this giant pretzel on like a banana hanger. You love it.
Fun. How about you, Joanna? What's your favorite regional?
Just once a year, we go to Nathan's and I have a hot dog and those crinkly French fries.
So
I do it. That's enough. That's enough. Once a year. Yeah.
Probably enough. And how about now, besides your wedding, what's the last concert you went to?
The last concert I went to was Cheap Trick in Port Chester, and it was Valentine's Day 2020, right before everything went nuts.
Oh, yeah. And how about you, Joanne?
I went to see Little Stephen and the Disciples of Soul in Asbury Park.
Right?
That's
Where
the
were
last
you
concert I've been to.
Were they at the Stone Pony outside?
No, they were at the big,
At the Paramount Theater,
the big one.
that's
Yeah.
the Paramount in Asbury, the Count Basie Theater, and he did both. So I don't know
Yeah,
which.
the,
I know
the big one that's out on the, at the
by the boardwalk. So that's
Yeah.
the Paramount. Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
No, it sounds like so much fun. Okay, we were talking a little bit about the fashions of the 60s, but let's hop to the 80s. What one fashion trend or accessory would you love to still wear now from the 80s, which is, the whole flash dance
God,
era?
I hated all the styles of the 80s, but I gotta tell you, I would love to like really tease my hair up really big again. And wear those little lace fingerless gloves.
Oh yeah, those are great.
See, you are a Jersey girl.
Mhm.
Most definitely, yeah.
I agree with you, Maureen. And I was thinking of saying that, but I didn't go out that much. So I chose the banana clip. Because
Right.
Practical, yes.
it kind of gave you a nice little silhouette thing on this, on the side there. And it wasn't supposed to give you split ends. So I had a thing for banana clips. Yeah.
Coming back a little. And then on more of a serious side, tell us some words to live by. What do you live by?
Oh God, there are a couple. I'll give you the most brief one. The show must go on. Because I think that no matter what, you got to go through it. You got to work through it, and you've got to make it happen, whatever it is that you're involved in, or whatever it is that you love.
You sure learned that this past 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
And how about you?
I think mine is, it's never too late to become what you might have been. I believe George Eliot said that, or a form of that. So it's just my way of saying, don't think you're too old for anything. Just go for it.
I like that.
Wow. I love that message, Joanna. Absolutely love it. We all love it. Now, we usually do a charity shout out, and I know we've spoken about Maureen's. Joanna, do you have a charity that you work with that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, I can't say I necessarily work with them, but I'm an avid animal lover, and I have adopted a few orphan elephants. So I believe in the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust organization, because I think they do a really wonderful job of taking care of these orphaned elephants and healing them. And they're very fragile animals. They need a lot of care, and I admire what they do so much. So I give all the time. I tell people to give an orphan as a present, and you see them grow up, and it's special.
I got one as a present, and now I support them because I think it's the most beautiful organization. So it's so great, Joanna.
And elephants are they're just wonderful. And because of what's going on in Africa, they've been in the news even more. But, with everyone saying that the store shelves aren't going to be stocked and it's so hard to get things for the holidays, I think giving an orphan elephant would be the best gift ever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to steal that actually, because it's perfect.
I'm so excited to get this. You'll love it if you do it.
Yeah.
I really am going to do it, because how many things from Home Goods can you buy someone? Not that I don't love Home Goods, but I mean, again, I'm going to reference this age. We have what we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, but they say when your cup runneth over, start pouring. So
Right.
I think we have a lot. We're lucky, and just start giving it.
That's right.
that's so right. And what a great way to end the show. I can't tell you how much all of us really appreciate Maureen and Joanna for you joining us today. And we learned a lot, and, you know, just being in the presence of you ladies was just absolutely wonderful. We ran long today, which is fine. There was so much to talk about, and I thank you for sticking around for an hour. And I wish you all the best. And, you know, please check back with us, and we'll be keeping posted on what you guys are doing, and we'll tell our viewers also. So I'm going to end this
here, really, and lovely to meet all of you. Thank you so much. You're all so sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today.
So that's the end of our show. I'm going to end it the way I always do by saying, well, first saying we're on YouTube, and we're really trying to get our subscribers up. We're brand new to YouTube. We'll be on some other stations, but right now we are trying to get those subscribers up on YouTube. So please subscribe, tell your friends about us, and every day find some joy and give some joy. Thanks for watching.
Wake up with a smile.